Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Mark Plamondon. I'm the Executive Director of Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association, and I'm thrilled to be here today to have a conversation about hydrogen for residential heating. I'm here with Michelle Kissel, who is the Vice President of Customer Experience and Initiatives, and I'm here with Brad Armstrong, who is the Vice President, Community Development, Qualico Communications, correct?
That's right.
Or Qualico Communities.
Yep.
My mistake. Sorry, Brad. Well, happy to have a discussion here this afternoon on this topic. This is all has to do with here at the Hydrogen Convention. We're talking about hydrogen for residential heating. I'm going to ask Michelle to start. Why don't you just start off in general and tell us what ATCO has going on and what's happening in the residential heating space?
Sure. Thank you, Mark. I'll first start by saying that I represent ATCO Energy Systems, more specifically the Gas and Pipelines Division, as it relates to serving our over 1.3 million customers in Alberta. In terms of what we're doing in the hydrogen space, Brad, I'll say that we are appreciative to have partners like you to be able to collaborate with like-minded visions around delivering low-carbon solutions, and in this case, blended and pure hydrogen options for home heating to Albertans.
Yeah, certainly lots of excitement around that. You have pilot program going on right now, right?
Yes, in the Fort Saskatchewan area, the community of Fort Saskatchewan, we have a blend of 5% hydrogen being fed into 2,100 homes, a school, some businesses, and that's been very well received by the community as well as others. You probably heard a whole lot about it today as well in the convention.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, a lot of excitement around that pilot project. Now that segues into what Qualico we're talking about with Qualico, because what you're talking about here with respect to residential heating is more than a 5% blend. And Brad, why don't you just tell us what you have planned?
Sure. Let me first introduce Qualico Communities a little bit. We're part of Qualico Canada, which is a fully integrated home building and land development company. It's family owned. We've been in operations for over 70 years now. And we've been building homes and communities in the Edmonton region for over 60 years now. So we're really happy to be partnering with ATCO on this exciting initiative. And that initiative is the introduction of our newest community, which is called Bremner. It's being built in Sherwood Park, which is located on the eastern edge of the city of Edmonton. And our plans there, because we're located right on the doorstep to Canada's or Alberta's industrial heartland, which is the location, as you know, Mark, this is where we produce the most hydrogen in the world. So we thought, wouldn't it be awesome if we could build this community right from scratch and build and introduce Canada and the world to home hydrogen, which is basically replacing natural gas with pure hydrogen. So that's what we've got planned. We're starting construction this summer in 2024. It's going to take us a couple of years to get this new community off the ground in terms of all of the investment and all the infrastructure. We plan to finish up construction by fall of 2025, so that's only a year and a half away now. And at that time, we can hand it over to new home builders, and hopefully we'll see new residents moving into that community in spring, summer of 2026. So it's coming up fast.
Mark, I was just going to add, we heard earlier today from the Premier how important it is to maximize all uses of hydrogen, and I think this is just a wonderful example to be able to leverage hydrogen for home heating, to be able to really build out the true value chain as it relates to hydrogen in our province.
Yeah, and it is the first 100% hydrogen community in Alberta and in Canada. It will be the first, will it not?
My understanding, it'll be the first time that anybody's done this in Canada. We already have our first home under construction. It's actually been fully built. It's located in one of our existing neighborhoods, and that's we just are turning it over to ATCO Gas right now, and they're converting it to pure hydrogen over the next few weeks. So that'll be the first hydrogen house that we're aware of in Canada. The interesting thing is it's not the first community in the world, but it is in Canada, and if we're successful, this potentially could be the largest pure hydrogen community in the world.
Yeah, just further to that, we've had a really nice opportunity to collaborate with peers across the world who literally have been doing this for decades. So the Netherlands, Singapore, Hong Kong, closer to home, Honolulu, and our partners in Australia as well. So I would say we're more of a fast follower and excited to be a part of the overall hydrogen movement.
I think that's a really important point. I mean, this is being done elsewhere. They've got it figured out elsewhere. They have the codes and standards and protocols in place elsewhere in the world, and so this fast followers may be a good way to put it. So, given that for us here in Alberta, of course, this is new. It's done elsewhere, but it's new. So everything new, first time you're doing things, has challenges. We know the opportunity for sure from a decarbonization standpoint, but why don't you talk about some of the challenges that you need to work through to sort of advance hydrogen for residential heating?
Okay. Sure. I would say the immediate challenge is that in Alberta, we lack the legislative amendments that are required to really build out home hydrogen for our residential customers. So it's as simple as some straightforward changes to the existing Gas Utility and Distribution Act that the government will need to put in place to allow us to really build out and expand into the homes of our customers. I will say that we've had great signals and nice collaboration with the government of Alberta in terms of listening to what we have to offer and reiterating the messages that we are of how important it is to be able to deliver hydrogen to homes and really answer to the hydrogen roadmap that the provincial government put out in 2021.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that a little more, so you are having those conversations, you are engaged with the proper authorities. As far as you can tell, the work is advancing. I mean, it's right.
Yes, there's positive momentum for sure.
Of course, you're not the regulator, so I'm not asking you to speak on that, but you're seeing movement there. That's very encouraging. And so from your perspective as a home builder in Qualico, what are some of the key challenges that you need to sort of get over the hump here to advance this community, Brad?
Well, again, just to reiterate what Michelle has said, we've been collaborating with ATCO and the government of Alberta, and really what it is getting that enabling legislation in place that will allow not only ATCO and Qualico to invest in this particular technology, but others in similar technologies. So that's really the main thing. Working with the municipalities is, I guess, the other one, from the home building and the safety codes areas, so that people understand what those issues are and what the challenges are and how to implement that into home building. And so we've had a really great relationship with Strathcona County in that regard, who's the authority having jurisdiction out in the Bremner area. And but they brought everybody to the table, all their safety codes officers, their emergency services personnel. They have some of the best trained emergency services folks in Canada, from what I understand. And, given their experience in Alberta's industrial heartland and Refinery Row and places like that. So they're used to dealing with different, gases and fighting fires if necessary, if there's any incidents. Not that we're expecting any, right? So, but that does lead into some of the other challenges as people's perception. Safety is always number one, and number two is what's the cost going to be to the homeowner at the end of the day. So those are all things that ATCO has been working on. From what I understand, they've hired expert consultants like ARUP to prepare risk assessments, and we're feeling more and more confident every day from the little bit that they shared with us is that it will be as safe, if not safer, than natural gas.
Please.
Maybe I'll just chime in there as well. Yeah, you bang on. You nailed it, Brad. I'll also add that, so first, safety is one of ATCO's core values. So we are approaching home hydrogen no different than we do natural gas. Having the same engineering assessments and other, I'll say, technologies like odorant, for example, ready and in place so that we are confident that it will be as safe or safer than natural gas that we deliver to homes today. And I'll just also add that one of the differences is that when you deliver hydrogen and combust hydrogen for heat, it does not produce CO2. So the possibility of carbon monoxide poisoning goes away in this case as well. And then just one other thing, Brad, you mentioned some of the consultants on the engineering side. I'll also speak to some recent survey work that Navigator had conducted on our behalf, and we had learned that over 80% of respondents are comfortable with the safety of hydrogen being delivered to their home today. And furthermore, there was 78% that are keen to even learn more. So to me, that speaks to the curiosity of Albertans, and they want to be part of this.
And was that sorry, that survey Navigator that you just said, was that for the pilot plant, or was that throughout Alberta?
No, throughout Alberta.
Throughout Alberta. Okay, fascinating. I want to just emphasize one point that you mentioned, and I forgot I'd heard about it before, but you are adding odorant to the hydrogen because otherwise it'd be odorless. And so again, to emphasize the safety aspects for those residents that may be concerned that you wouldn't smell a leak. In this case, with an odorant, you'd be able to smell. Your nose can detect if there's any issues and can address that subsequent to that. So that's a really good point. So you've really emphasized how important safety is, and that's going to be questions that residents will have, and so you're addressing those proactively, as you mentioned. There's two components, so as a couple of components when you're buying a house: safety, of course, and then we were talking a little bit on the side around cost. So it's natural for somebody buying a house; they're going to want to understand the cost, maybe with the initial cost of a house, or maybe the cost of the fuel for the house, hydrogen versus natural gas. Maybe you want to talk to those points, Brad, and then Michelle.
Sure. Well, I'll leave it to ATCO to talk about the rates and that sort of thing and what that process is. There's a bit of a process that they do have to go through. But anecdotally speaking, when we're talking with new home buyers, they've made it clear that they're interested in helping to reduce their carbon footprint, right? So it's really important to most people, we're finding, but they're not necessarily in a position where they can afford to make their home net zero. We can produce net zero homes today, but the gap between a net zero home and existing homes that are being built under current policies and legislation is about, on a standard size home that we build is about $40,000 is my understanding. One of the beautiful things about introducing home hydrogen, so pure hydrogen into the new home here, is that you're not going to pay a carbon tax, right? And you're going to have an immediate impact on lowering your emissions right away, okay? So I think that's one of and it doesn't cost you very much more than, it's not going to cost you $40,000, right? So people really believe in it, and I think that's one of the things that makes them excited about home hydrogen.
And just to build on that, of course, I think that emphasizes how important when you're looking at decarbonization, whether you're decarbonizing residential homes or you're decarbonizing industry, the price on carbon is a key factor in driving behaviors. And to your point, by 2030, hydrogen is a decarbonized energy product.
Right. I think that's part of it, but more than that, it's about the innovation. It's sustainable, and it's the most cost-effective way of getting towards low carbon living, from what we understand, and that's what really is getting people's interest.
Go ahead, please, Michelle.
I was going to further to that, Brad. We heard today how by 2030 the global hydrogen market will exceed the value of natural gas, and by 2050 it being worth trillions of dollars. And I think we can all agree that Alberta should and could be a part of that, or that emerging economy. So with that growth, and as that commodity grows and becomes more prevalent within our province, the price to deliver it will lower as well. So At the onset, yes, it will be a little bit more expensive than we see today. However, as 2030 approaches and a carbon tax, it can be offset with carbon tax, as well as the market itself is built out, we will see that price point drop.
And from my selfish perspective, or from the industrial heartland perspective, there's no better jurisdiction to produce low carbon hydrogen than the industrial heartland, right next door to the neighborhood that you're talking about. And of course, right now, part of the pilot in Fort Saskatchewan, of course, is in the industrial heartland and part of a jurisdiction where you're doing your pilot, as well as good access to the entire pipeline network. So I think well positioned to provide hydrogen not only to Alberta, but internationally, right?
Yeah, and quite frankly, we have the infrastructure in place today. So our short-term vision is to be able to deliver a 20% blend to the greater industrial heartland community, Edmonton area, and then as time goes on, be able to expand on the pure communities that Qualico and Bremner have planned as well.
Yeah, just to be clear, we're talking about short-term Bremner being pure hydrogen, right, where we'll introduce the home hydrogen. So, and just to your point, Mark, talking about its location, I don't think there's a better location in North America to really introduce something like a Bremner, just because of its proximity, number one, to where we produce all of this hydrogen. And to your point, Michelle, just talking about what the Premier's words and all the discussions today at the Canadian Hydrogen Conference really centered around planes, trains, and automobiles and big industry from what I can see. And we need to be talking more about home hydrogen in that regard, because I think when you talk about the dream or the vision, it's really like with all the investment that these huge industries are making to make their own products carbon-free and their own plants carbon-free by 2050, the dream would be for me to have a community on its doorstep where they're going to work at a low-carbon or a carbon-free plant. They're driving there in their carbon-free vehicle, in their hydrogen car, and when they come home at night, they're living in a low-carbon community like Bremner.
You're visionary, Brad. It's perfect. Yeah, nice vision.
I think we'd also be remiss to say that with that comes a whole lot of jobs, attraction to our province, and really the greater growth of the economic growth of Alberta, being the recipient of the hydrogen market building out the way we see it today.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important part is the economic side. So there's the industrial side, there's a home side, but on the home heating side and on the home appliance industry, there's an opportunity to build home appliances right here in this province and take advantage, to introduce into a community like Bremner. So big shout out to Gradient Thermal, who's already invested money to build a brand new combi furnace boiler unit. I have one of those in my house. It runs off of natural gas, but it's easily converted to burn pure hydrogen. It's a beautiful furnace, most beautiful furnace I've ever seen. But that's just an example of the kind of economic investment that I think that we can continue to develop for small businesses right here in Alberta, as well as the big businesses.
Could I just back up? You'd mentioned about the 20% blend. Can we talk about the blending for a minute? So you have the pilot going on, 5%. Can you talk about your progression towards 20 and why 20? And can you just talk a little bit about the blend and what your thoughts are there?
Sure. So once we have policy change and the legislative amendments that I spoke of earlier in place, and we're enabled to build out the 20% blend to homes, the idea is that we'd be able to leverage existing appliances. So the furnace would stay the same and no changes would be required to the home. It would look and feel just like your home looks today. You would be immersed in a nice, warm, cozy living room, looking at your fireplace like you would today, and it would be no different, other than the fact that you would be operating with a lower carbon living environment.
And is 20% proven out elsewhere in the world, or why 20? Can I ask that?
Yes, 20% is proven out in terms of not being able to, or not needing to, rather, change out the existing appliance components. Once we exceed the 20%, at that point, we would lean on technologies like Brad spoke to, like gradient, whereby it would be an easy switch out of what the furnace looks like today to accommodate higher blends and or pure hydrogen requirements.
Right, and then in terms of blending in other parts of the world, if you like Hawaii or going to Hawaii, like Honolulu, for example, I think that's the island, they have up to 50% hydrogen blended into their natural gas already.
Okay, you said 50, half. Okay, well that's interesting. But in our current systems, current pressures, current appliances, 20 is the number, and your pilot plant in Fort Saskatchewan is intended to work its way up to that. Is that the plan?
Correct, yes.
And maybe expand on that a little bit.
Sure.
What's the plan on the pilot plant in Fort Saskatchewan, pilot facilities? How many years or months or what's, can you share details on that?
Definitely. Thank you, Mark. Yes, we actually just received delivery of an electrolyzer, which we will leverage to produce the hydrogen at that 20, as we ramp up to 20% over time to the Fort Saskatchewan community. So we're in commissioning phase right now, and once that is in place, we'll start introducing higher percentages over time.
Okay, right now you're 5, but the intent, get that electrolyzer online and then ramp it up to 20%. And run it for years, months? Haven't determined it yet?
To be determined.
Yeah.
We'll also excitingly have our 100% heated operating center at that location as well.
Okay, so what about from today? What are some of the next steps that you need to see to advance this, Brad? Maybe share some of that.
Well, while we're putting in all the underground infrastructure, building the streets and the roads, and building the community, we need to complete get the regulatory pieces in place. So that's a simple change. It's basically the enabling legislation that we need in the Gas and Utilities Act and the Gas Distribution Act. We're expecting or hoping that it could come as early as this spring, and if not, it would be at the latest this fall. So we need to get that in place to allow us to continue the work and allow basically ATCO to supply that. Other than that, that's the only thing that's holding us back. All of the other gas infrastructure is virtually identical. So that's the nice thing about it. Even if you were to convert a neighborhood, not that we're recommending that here, but that's the idea of starting from scratch. We're going to build that pipeline infrastructure, which is capable of handling either natural gas or pure hydrogen. So it's just a matter of what are we charging those lines with when we go to have people move into their first homes. So those are really the only things. That's the only thing that's holding us back. Again, as Michelle talked about, we've had great discussions with the government of Alberta, and we're very, very optimistic that we're going to get this done.
Yeah, exciting times for your company, and so nice to see a leadership position that you're taking. And I think I've heard you say before, just to give, again, potential customers an idea, is the community itself looks no different. Like the houses look no different, the community looks no different. It's like any other community, right?
Well, that's right. I mean, that's one of the questions that we've had from almost everybody. What does a hydrogen house look like? Or what does a hydrogen community look like? Well, the answer is it looks identical. You're not really going to notice any different. It's just that the fuel source is different, and your appliances might look a little bit different at the end of the day, but basically it's going to be identical.
Brad, is it fair to say you are going to be opening a show home pretty soon?
Yeah, so we've got our Home One, which is the name of our home hydrogen house. Has been fully built by our sister company, Sterling Homes. It's located in one of our neighborhoods in Sherwood Park. I think I mentioned it earlier. We're just in the process of handing it over to ATCO, who's going to take over as prime contractor to install the pure hydrogen. It'll be more of a demonstration home than a show home. It's not going to be open to the public all the time, but we will have open houses and we will have guided tours, and we expect it to be open by sometime in May. And it's been a really great project for us because it allowed us to test out the process of permitting. And again, that's where we're really built on that relationship between ATCO, Qualico as the home builder, and Strathcona County and all of their safety codes people and emergency services folks. And it's been a really great process, and everybody's quite thrilled about it, and we're excited to show it off to the public over the next year.
I think it's a really neat opportunity to showcase what's possible to policymakers, to educators, to customers, community members. So kudos to you and the team for making that possible to the public.
Yeah, I certainly commend everybody involved. It's a great leadership position on trying to drive this forward, and I'd like to congratulate both of you on your work to date and wish you all the best finishing this off. So we've just got a few minutes left before we finish. Then I just wanted to ask, so Michelle, maybe is there any sort of last thoughts you wanted to leave that we didn't address here in this discussion? Any final comments you want to make?
Maybe I'll just add that our appreciation on behalf of ATCO, appreciation for the event, the conference that is occurring over the next couple of days. It really is a nice opportunity to collaborate, to come together and rally with like-minded leaders in the space, because outside of this conference, really, we need to continue fostering, cultivating those hydrogen ambassadors to speak on our behalf as well. So thank you to the conference organizers.
For sure, and it was really nice to hear Nancy Southern, a keynote today at lunchtime. That was really nice to hear her as well. Any final comments you want to make, Brad, before we wrap up?
Well, I just have to echo everything Michelle just said. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here on the Edmonton Global stage here at the Canadian Hydrogen Conference. It's great to be part of this, and it's really exciting to do the things that we get to do and build new communities. And all I can finish off by saying is home hydrogen. Look out for it, and come on out to Bremner here, and hopefully you can buy a home. And is that too hard? Too hard of a sell? Anyway, unabashedly, yeah. Anyway, no, I mean, we're really excited about this project. And again, like Michelle said, it's the collaboration. We couldn't do it without all the people that have helped us, and ATCO in particular. They've just been amazing to work with, and we've all learned so much. And I think it's important to get this one, put this puck in the net, and this would be like winning the Stanley Cup of energy, I think.
Well, certainly exciting times. Great conversation here this afternoon at the Edmonton Global Stage at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention, I guess it's called. Thank you very much, Brad. Thank you very much, Michelle. I really appreciate that. I do want to mention that following this panel discussion, there will be a discussion on Polish delegation opportunities to collaborate, so stick around for that. I'm Mark Plamondon, Executive Director of Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association. Thank you very much for the conversation, and we look forward to seeing you around the convention. Thank you.
Thanks.